We're back, baby. Once again, it's I, King Apollo, with my gracious co-host Jay Cluster. This is What in the Metaverse podcast, episode 10. Nice little milestone episode, and we have a great special guest on today. We have Trent coming from Swoops to tell us all the amazing things that's going on in the community. I'm excited to have this talk today. I'm very much invested into the community with time and many other things. So definitely ready.
Pretty
to
much
get
can't get
off.
him to shut up about it, honestly.
Yeah,
Swoops this, swoops that, swoops everything. All right,
pretty much. Yeah. I
Yes,
think
sir.
I think all of my friends are about either tired of me or ready to get in. So
It's awesome
my
here.
job,
Thank you
my
so much
job's
for
getting
having me.
done. And no problem. How you doing today, Trent? You doing all right?
Doing well. It's a nice Saturday. Cool breeze here in Vermont. Just hanging out, really chilling.
Awesome. So kind of like introduce yourself and let them know like what you do over at Swoops and
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Trent Labounty. I am the social media director for Swoops. I've been working with them for just around a year now. Swoops is a fantasy basketball simulation game with true ownership of your assets. So each player lives on the blockchain. You can buy, sell, trade your way to kind of competing for victory. Every game is played on our advanced proprietary simulator that was built in-house by some very high-level NBA statisticians. So really, you're building a team. If you take DFS model, mix it with the 2K model, and that's kind of where you get the swoops.
Awesome, and that's great to hear. I love the basically the in-depth stats that actually go on. Like you mentioned, when you go to the site and you look at your players and you buy some players, you literally have every game that they've played. You could see every stat that they've ever done. Either team, right? Players get transferred, right? And if they get transferred, you can see those stats. So it's something that's really cool about, and some new things you added right to the update. You want to talk about some of those?
Yeah, so we actually just started our season 1 3 days ago. We got through our season 0 beta that lasted about 5 months. We had 200,000 games played, whole lot of testing, and we made some adjustments for season 1. The first being token gated lobbies. So we now allow 1, 3, and 5 swoopsters to play in a game. That means that we have a free agent pool of 50 players to fill out the rest of your lineup. All games are 5v5 simulations. So if you have just one swoopster, one owned player, you can actually fill out that lineup with some free agents. We're also now having a cap on games played per day. So each owner can only play, or team can only play 50 games per day. We did that to kind of incentivize more strategy in the game. And as you play Swoops, you'll start to realize there's a whole lot of different elements that go into it. It's not really just a plug and play. It's a very strategic game where you're really owning, operating a GM, coaching your team, and things like team chemistry, player fit, matchups. All of that are very important in Swoops. So we got a games cap now, so you're kind of focusing more, less spamming of the lobby, more kind of diving into those stats that you mentioned and really picking apart what's working well for your team or what's not.
Yeah. So moving on from that, right? Let's talk more about how Swoops got started, right? It's a lot of key individuals behind it, backing it. You have people like Gary and AJ Vanderchuk, multiple NBA. We also have like ABA teams that have teams as well in the community. So like, kind of how did all of that come together?
It's actually an awesome kind of starting story. Our co-founders, David Goldberg and Manish, are two excellent co-founders. David, former still a VC, and Manish, an absolute wizard dev. They both kind of just were friends before and had an idea. And the story goes, it was written on a napkin, the idea for Swoops, kind of a game where you don't just like play like fantasy sports. You don't kind of just use the players that everybody else is using. You know, you're not just entering LeBron or Steph Curry into your lineup, but instead to give people the opportunity to actually own a basketball franchise. And with Web3 technology, it kind of came into fruition. So over a year and a half ago, David and Manish kind of wrote down on a napkin some ideas for Swoops, and all of a sudden, after some VC funding, you mentioned the several different NBA franchises, Gary V, Alpaca V is a big investor, Blackbeard, a bunch of big time kind of capital money came in to start Swoops, and we've since kind of built out our simulator, our game, and now an entire league of teams.
Yeah, and it's a lot. We hit a super milestone coming into season 1 with 400 owners, if I'm correct.
I believe, looking at OpenSea, we're up over 500 unique owners now. In the past 3
Jeez.
days, we've had 200 different teams compete to kick off the season 1. So it's really popping. The league is growing every single day. We have 60 different Twitter franchises that have kind of taken it a step further, went out, got a brand, built it on Twitter. And a couple of those teams have actually already started picking up sponsors. We've had 3 different teams pick up sponsors so far. So we're super excited for that kind of branding side of Swoops as opposed to just playing as well.
Yeah, I kind of got it. I need to tap in with those guys and find out how to get the All-Star sponsored up, man.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're out there. If you're listening, sponsors, we're looking for sure, man. Clutch, you got any questions? Want to pull something up really quick?
Yeah, so right now I'm looking at the collection, and this is kind of stuff that I like to look at. And I think about, okay, so when did the mint go live? What's the floor price? And you said your guys' mint totally sold out, right?
Yeah, so our both of our mints so far, our season 0 mint, which was just over 5 months ago now, that was 1,500 players, and both mints were a little different. I'll start with the first one. That was our veteran mint. So players year 2 through 7, each swoopster kind of have, if you pull up a swoopster card, they have a prospect rating, so a 1 through 5 star rating that's given to them at birth, at Genesis. And then they also have a season. So each player kind of ages and develops as they go, just like a real life counterpart. So our first mint was all those veterans. We kind of built out the league. And then our second mint, which was just a few weeks ago, was the kind of first rookie class. So we put 1,000 rookies, 300 sophomores, 200 third years kind of in a mint. And that was 1,500. They sold out. We sold out on day 3 of that mint. So now there's 3,000 different swoopsters out there circulating, ranging from year 1 to 8 now.
Okay. And so there's some cool talk. There's something going on there, definitely, with the aging things. You must be adjusting the metadata for your NFTs there. But before I get too deep into that, let's talk about the price, right? So what did the first mint price and
Yeah,
then the
both
second
mints
mint
were
price?
right around. Both mints were actually at 0.05 ETH, so right around 80 to 90 US dollars to mint 1. And we're gonna. I think we're gonna keep that price right around the same. And you mentioned floor price. After our first mint, we saw a little dip, but actually through season 0, we only had 3 sales below mint. This season, as the supply has increased and they're rookies, we've seen the floor dip now to it's about 0.035. So about $50 to get the cheapest swoopster out there. But we don't really worry about the floor as a company. It's not really our aim. More so, we look at average sale, having players so diverse with skill sets.
Yeah.
So our average sale in season 0 for a 5-star player was right around 0.55 ETH. So 11x from the mint price. But so far in season 1, excuse me, the prices vary really much so depending on that player, their potential future, how they're performing now. I can see Apollo has Smooth pulled up, his main man, scoring
My
21 a
boy.
game. But yeah, so you can see each swoopster has 15 different skill scores, each of which kind of feed into our simulator to affect how they play on the court. The top 9 being kind of more so on-court skills, so your 3-point, your defense, and the bottom 6 are those intangibles. So Smooth right there has a 92 longevity. So that's going to help him keep his stats high for longer. If you think about an NBA player, they typically play 12 to 14 seasons. So for Smooth here, season 7, he might be halfway through his career, but with a nice longevity rating there up in the 90s. Maybe he'll play, longer to season 16, maybe 17 or even 18. The season is 7 here. So he's of our veterans, 3-star prospect. So that's going to help him out, kind of benefit him as he progresses, as he ages and evolves. And then each player has a position as well. Swoops is a 5-man kind of game, so you need 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center.
Right.
Some players can play a little bit of both.
So the metadata is changing as they age. They essentially get worse. So the value of the card would
Or better.
get better.
Yeah, King, do
So
you want to
like
pull up the
now
actual changes? You can
trying to
pull that
figure
up
it
on the
out.
banner in your locker room, and we can kind of
Okay.
talk a little bit more about
Let me
that.
see. All right, so I'm gonna have to drop it, I think, first. All right, let's.
So to answer your question there, Cluster, it's not necessarily a
Okay,
perfect
yeah.
line. So you could see some skills go up, others go down, depending on each. So all players, let me back up a little bit and say all players are unique one of ones. So they each have their own development curve that is unique to them. So you could have 2 5-star players, both with a 60 coach, and see totally different development just based off of their own player. But
Right.
So I think, I might. I don't know if Hidu's gonna reveal. The
you
rookie
might
should
need a
reveal,
guy
right?
that's from season
Yeah,
0.
yeah.
Just maybe Smooth. We
All right,
can
let's
check
go
out
to
Smooth.
yeah. RSQ Elton's right here as well. Or not? Yeah, let's go to Smooth.
Smooth's the man.
Smooth's my guy. He's a legacy guy. All right, so there we go. That's Smooth's progression right there.
So this is showing his evolution over the off season, which is 1 week. Each season lasts 13 weeks, so 3 months real time. And then for 1 week, they'll kind of go into progression, hibernation. We'll run the Swooper Bowl or end of season tournament, and then you'll come out and your players will have changed. So Smooth here, he was season 6 3-star, kind of entering his prime. You're seeing a lot of pluses there, so he got a lot better. And then the longevity stat, which is glowing, is the new one he revealed. So each season, a Swoopster has the same number of stats revealed as they are seasoned. So Smooth now has 7 stats or skills, revealed to match his season. So once he gets to 15, you'll then know all of his skill scores.
Yeah, Whiskey made a good point. The database behind Swoops must be insane if all players have their own growth design. So that's my kind of like, I'm kind of beating around the same bush here. Like, so you've got these NFTs and all this data is changing on them all the time, which is really interesting. From like an investor's perspective, it would be really hard for someone like me who doesn't really even know much about basketball to be able to peg the value of a specific card on OpenSea, or like how, because they all have like different utility of like, well, they're trying to win a basketball game, so how am I supposed to know which one I would want to invest in and get, right? So,
Yeah,
and there's so many data points. So
That's a great question. If you're looking at Swoops from more of an investment standpoint, you're going to want to kind of go after the guys that are a little younger, a little higher star prospects. The prospect rating, the star rating, is not necessarily exact science. If you think about the NBA draft, there are always busts. There are always guys who like Nikola Jokic who come out and they weren't supposed to be great and they are great. So it's not going to be, you buy a 5-star, he's guaranteed to be the best player. But if you're taking long shots, picking up young guys with high star prospects or good coachability, which also feeds into that progression, is something that you're going to want to be looking at from an investment standpoint. Maybe a stash player, someone who you think will improve over time. So looking at Smooth last year, he's a 3-star. You didn't know how well he would improve, but after seeing kind of his first evolution, you can assume that he probably would see something similar in the next season as well.
okay. So yeah, you basically have to have a sports mindset and really sort of understand that players are changing and evolving, and like this is something like, once again, King's like, Jay Cluster's hopeless. Like, I really am. I'm so hopeless. Like,
It takes like it takes like at least a small understanding of basketball statistics and the actual game to actually get aboard, right? If you're somebody who like played back in the day when you were like in elementary or middle school, right? You understand the game, right? It'd be easy to pick up on, right? If you understand teams, but you're not a hardcore NBA player, if you understand how Golden State works, right? You'll understand how to set up a shooting team, right? You'll understand what you need to actually make that Golden State Warrior team that won the dynasty, right? That made those 3 championships happen, right? You can build a team around that, but you kind of have to understand the basic knowledge of the actual basketball. So yeah, it
Yeah,
is. Go ahead.
I'd love to jump in there. I think the more you play Swoops, and if you're a basketball fan, this is definitely for you. The more you play Swoops, the more it kind of represents and shows true basketball, in my opinion. They brought me on. I was a huge 2K guy. I used to play 2K for money competitively. I was a college basketball player, and when they brought me on, my job at first for the first couple months was to try to break the sim. I was trying to kind of figure out what might be wrong with it, figure out what doesn't really represent real life. And it's gotten to the point now where we're at season 1, we're still very much a beta, but the actual simulator itself, if you look at a play-by-play and a live game, so each game you can kind of watch the dynamic box score and play-by-play. And if you watch that and we swapped out our names with real NBA player names, it's getting to the point where it's really hard to tell the difference between real and not real. So those player stats feed into it. If you're a basketball fan, if you do, fantasy basketball, you play 2K, you do sim leagues, anything like that, or you just watch basketball for fun, you're gonna like really dive into this and be able to own your own franchise. And that's the stick of it. Is this is not kind of I'm gonna jump in, buy a couple players, and really understand it right away. It's gonna take some trial, some testing, some learning of what you have, and then ultimately you're gonna want to grow to become a bigger franchise and compete with those top dogs.
For sure. It's honestly like playing when you play Madden, like either Ultimate Team or you did 2K franchise or any of those. It's kind of like bringing it to more real life, and you really build a brand, right? Like a lot of the teams, like, and the guys that are in here, and I could just look in and show you, like the Rebellion, like really big brand in the actual community. And you have over now, right, 400 brands inside this community. Some of these guys have merch. They do merch giveaways. These guys have logos. Some of these guys are tied to bigger projects. You got Knights of Degens in there with us. Let me think of some of the other Apex Instigators, which is an ABA basketball team. They're in there with us. You got a bunch of other like well-known people in the sports space. Vayner Sports came on not too long ago, which is a huge membership sports NFT program, right? All of these brands come together, and it gives you an opportunity to really feel like something that doesn't seem really possible. It's honestly almost impossible to become an NBA owner or an NFL owner or anything, right? Even an arena football owner. Like you see people like Jay-Z, they try to go buy stuff and they have a hard time. And these guys are billionaires. So this is something that's extremely far-fetched that we actually have an opportunity to do. And I honestly see a few of these teams and brands, like the way they're building them, I see them being big. Like I see them having thousands of followers on Twitter. I see them having merch that drops like I would say seasonally that would actually do nice numbers in merchandising and actual rivalries being built. Like I even started a little baby rivalry with the Wolfpack Whiplash because they're wolves and we're wolves. Like our mascot's a wolf, their mascot's a wolf. So it's like something, and we both play in the same kind of division. We both play in the 3-man. So I honestly see like it's such like the foresight and like what could be in the next 2 to 3, 4 seasons, right? Is I feel like the ceiling's like it's like no ceiling there really. Like it's like the sky's the limit, and that's really cool concept to me.
Yeah, and I feel like you guys really opened up a lot of opportunity here. And is that kind of like, so when you guys are thinking about the conception of Swoops, you could have basically tried to go with like actual representations of basketball players or, approximations of real life basketball players, but instead we've got these robots, right? So what was the thought process behind robots playing basketball? Was there
Yeah, I'd love to dive into the robots. Before I do, I do want to mention that I'm glad you brought up those other like branded teams, Paulo, like Knights of Degen. We have a bunch of different projects in, and what we're becoming quickly is kind of like a battleground for other projects. So they come in, they'll start a franchise, they'll name their players with the community, have their community vote on who should play the starting lineup, and it's actually been really fun to just see like Knights of Degen, Vayner come in and start competing against each other and start little rivalries. I know KOD has a couple different teams that they like to play each other, have different owners in the community. So that's been really fun to see. But as for the robots, our graphic designer is or our head of design is Luda Ludwin, who has he's been at 15 years at Ford. He's a car designer, absolutely amazing. And we wanted to kind of give owners, we didn't want to just piggyback off the NBA IP. We wanted to kind of create our own IP to really branch away and give owners in our league the ability to go anywhere they wanted with their brand. Swoops is really a blank canvas. The Swoopsters themselves, the robot basketball players, this is our first iteration. I'd expect them to be changing over time. So maybe next season or a season after, we have a different player model, something else that is very unique to us. But the robots playing basketball, it was really a dig at AI. And it was kind of a dig at kind of where we're going in this Swoops verse, where, you know, robots are kind of taking over. They're playing basketball. They look really sweet, really clean. Each of them are individuals, both in their metadata for their player curve and also physicals. So no Swoopsters look too alike. Yeah, I mean, really, I wasn't quite on the Swoops team when they were developing the robot models, but that's been my understanding as we were trying to dig into AI, kind of be able to dive into the lure of Swoops really still has yet to be revealed fully, but you know, it's really just about them kind of being built and bred to kind of play basketball, and it's in their DNA.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, I mean, like, I was just picking up because you guys are talking about all these different people building franchises, and I felt like the robot vibe was actually really good for giving people the ability to just create their own team and their own brand around something, right? So I actually find it quite ingenious, and that's why I kind of wanted to touch on it. King was talking about all these teams building rivalries, building entire brands around it, and I just feel like it does sort of give like a bit of a blank canvas for people to work with, and when they're thinking about creating a team and building a community around these teams. So very interesting so far. But like, what's the gameplay like? I know it's like a fantasy basketball, right? So,
Gotcha. Right here. I
uh,
was already on it, bro. I was heading there. I
we
was
gotta
already
see it. We
heading
gotta
there.
see it. Because I mean,
So
I need to find like
I'll
for
let
me,
you
I'm
talk,
always
Trent,
like,
and
how
I'll
fun
just
is it?
move.
Sounds good. So what you got right here, this is the lineup selection screen. So King is on his Apollo All-Stars roster. These are all the players in his locker room. You'll see their stats, their season, their star rating. And this is where you kind of put together the lineup that you're going to be submitting into a game. So he's going to want to pick 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. Some players can play multiple positions. Others can only play one. And you can also see he's entering our free agents. So we actually named all 50 of our free agents this season to give a little bit more life to them. They all are kind of, if you think about the Swoopsters as NBA level players, all these free agents are kind of like the G League players. So they're a little bit worse than the Swoopsters themselves, but they'll help you fill out your lineup in different types of lobbies. So I think King is going into a 3 Swoopster lobby here. So he's going to grab 3 of his own guys, 2 free agents that he likes, and really try to put together the perfect lineup. King, if you want to pull up a player card too, you can click on a player name, and that'll show you their stats via the skill stores, as well as their season stats on the court. So you can dive in there, see what you're working with. And really you're trying to put together the best lineup considering chemistry, player fits. And when I say chemistry, what I mean by that is like, you're not going to want to put out 5 guys that do the same thing. If you've got 5 perimeter defenders out there, you're going to have a really good defense, but you're not going to have much scoring. If you don't have a passer out there, you might find your guys missing some shots because there's no one to distribute. If you don't have a rebound out there, you might find your teams getting out rebound. So it's really a strategy game, very similar to daily fantasy sports where you're trying to pick the guys that are get the most points. But in this sense, you're trying to put together the best 5-man lineup you can to be successful and win.
Right.
Yeah, I was trying to kind of hone in on their like top skills.
Yeah.
And
So
like some I kind of like to be the same, and then some I want different, right? Point guard is usually the leader of the team. So I want his IQ and leadership to be high. That's why Smooth's the perfect guy for the job, right? I got 30 seconds to talk. Okay. So, and then like, I like these guys, they're usually on the top of the key. So I like them to have good perimeter defense. And I like these guys to have good rebounds, right? So also I like my power forward to have good perimeter defense for those corner shots. So I'm gonna go ahead and submit my lineup before it's too late because you do have a time. limit on
Yep,
it. Let's see.
you have
Oh,
3 minutes
great.
to submit your lineup once you
Oh,
enter the lobby.
great. Look who we get.
This is a tough team right here. Metaverse was
Metaverse.
a Final Four matchup in the Super Bowl, our end of season 64 team March Madness like tournament that we actually live streamed. But King, I love how you broke down your strategy there. I want to just put out there that there's no right or wrong way to play Swoops. Just like in the NBA, building a franchise. You look at the Miami Heat this year. They're a totally different build than the Denver Nuggets. They kind of played way different. They're a zone team. The Nuggets more of a man-to-man team behind a center, the Heat behind a shooting guard. So you can see, just like in the real world, there's plenty of different ways to win in Swoops and different strategies to take. There's no right or wrong answer, but finding the right team to win is definitely a strategy game. As you can see here, the Epicenter, one of our defensive player of the year finalists last season, an absolute monster and only a 2-star.
Yeah, that shows. That's what I was kind of getting at is Epi is one the All-Stars was eyeing. We're eyeing for a while. But Epi's a 2-star prospect, but in my eyes, he has 4-star stats. So
Right.
that's another thing, like he was saying, like you can't, like even the stars don't mean anything. A lot of guys haven't played the guys that they have that they posted, and they don't really know these guys' potential. Smooth was a steal. Smooth was a steal. I got Smooth floor price. I got Smooth at floor. I forgot who I played against. The Pirates. I got Smooth from the Pirates. We got Smooth. Smooth was our first player we acquired. We got him from the Pirates. And I played the Pirates the other day. We had a pretty good series, and it was for the tournament for shout out KOD. KOD had a tournament, and he Smooth put up numbers, and he was like, "Yo," we were kind of like sad we let Smooth go, man. It was like his progression was crazy. So it just shows you.
The naming of players has created, this sense of ownership and bond that is actually surprising to me. So like the Pirates, they named Smooth before King Apollo got him, and they let him go, and now they remember that for the rest of time. And every time they see him in the lobby, they're thinking, "Oh man, should have let Smooth go," as he drops 25 on them. So here we got the Metaverse, a good brand. They got M Bomber, Gotta Be the Shoes, the Epicenter. So every swoopster is able to be named once, and once they are named forever. So be very careful in how you're naming players, but really also give them their identity. We have some player Twitters out there that are interacting on Twitter via their own player. So it's like the NBA where you got, Kevin Durant out there on a burner. You got, Smooth out there on a burner as well.
Yeah, I've seen players complain. And if you're complaining, don't worry. It's always room in the All-Stars. Just get with our management. We'll get you squared away. All right. So I guess the
game is ready now. It takes a couple minutes to run, as you can see, and you have the option to just kind of reveal it, or you can kind of watch the whole game throughout.
Let's watch it.
All right. So we'll watch it I'll start it at 1. Well, we can start at 2 times speed. We'll slow it down towards the end and I'll kind of do a little commentating. But yeah, you just start it up, watch, and then it's going. You can watch. I watch both ways. I've watched it so much that I could literally look at this side and know what's going on. I don't really have to read the game cast because I know what every stat is. So
I just see like green and red numbers going here, and I'm assuming red is bad.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing is every play is happening on that play-by-play. So defensive rebound by YMCA legend after the block by Epicenter. On that right side, that's our dynamic box score. So green is going to highlight a good stat. Red is going to highlight a bad stat, like a turnover, a foul, a missed shot. And then the green is going to keep bumping to the good things. So you see rebound, and then the shoes with the bucket, Smooth misses, then 269 misses, etc. So it's going to keep bumping around. A good place to check out is the Play Swoops Twitch. We did a live stream for 25 hours of our Super Bowl. So if you're looking to see some live commentary games, Josh and I hopped on, had a live call throughout. So you can kind of get a feel for it. I've watched, thousands of games at this point. So I typically look at the box score, like Apollo mentioned, more so than the play-by-play. But the fun thing about the play-by-play is you can see where they shot from. So you can see that like Smooth miss from 10 feet. So you can see where the shot came up from. We'll have a lot more coming to this. This is very much the skeleton of the game. We'll have things like shot charts. You can also jump over to the team stats to see how you're competing on a larger scale. So Apollo off to a nice start, up 13-8, winning quite a few of the different stat categories, up against a pretty strong opponent here.
Yeah, man. I need Smooth to hit those free throws though, or me and him gonna have a talk after this game. So, you know.
My typical watching experience personally is I like to kind of 3x through the first half. If the game is close, I'll stay in it, kind of keep flowing. But most of the time, I might even jump to halftime, just kind of watch the end. The last quarter is kind of a lot where all the action happens. But I see this as kind of an experience where you get a couple friends over, especially in like a tournament or a money game situation. You know, the end of the game can be pretty electric. So you get, excited about what's going on, see a couple close games, a couple game winners, really just kind of pump it up. Most of our owners actually play with friends now. It's a lot of, it's a very visual. The visuals still are not really up to where we want to get them to. Obviously, we're in beta, but this is a good starting spot for us where you can kind of watch a game and feel it.
For sure. Like I definitely can feel there's something going on here. I mean, for me, I'm probably could use more visuals. Like, have you guys considered actually visualizing like a basketball court and then like having swoops moving around?
Yeah, if you're familiar with the NBA 2K kind of play-by-play, like dynamic, I think they call it Gamecast, where there's kind of like circles with the players kind of face on it and they move around the court. That is definitely
Right.
like a next step for us. Another thing that we've been considering is like big moment animations. So if it's, 51, 50, 55 at the end of the game and a player hits an and 1 3, like we'd have it like the game cut to an animation where you're seeing that swoopster actually take that 3, get fouled, make the shot, do a
Nice.
little celebration, and then back to the game. So like creating moments of like very big events with animations.
That would be cool.
All right, this is
You're looking good right now.
Yeah, but they keep like slipping, and that's a big issue with us is fourth quarter. So we're gonna see. Big Dog comes up. If Big Dog, listen, that's why his name's Big Dog, right? We're the Wolves is the biggest dog in the ecosystem, right? We're the big dogs. He's the big dog. If he shows up in the fourth quarter and Smooth gets those and ones, we usually do well. But they like to slip away and get lazy in the fourth. So we'll see how it goes.
That's something that right there that just speaks to the depth of Swoops is your players by now. You've played 150 games with them. You know that what their tendencies are. You've realized the Apollo All-Stars, we're not the best in the fourth quarter. We don't have a closer, but Big Dog can be that guy. And if he is that guy, we win. And that's something that takes time to learn and kind of really realize in the game is what your players are doing. As you watch more games, you'll realize maybe Smooth's a first half kind of player. He'll get his buckets early, slow down. Maybe he's a fourth quarter closer. A big player in Swoops, Demon Thrillard. He's kind of been the clutch battery nickname. He gets buckets at the end of the game, every game seemingly.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, this is 12 points though, 4 minutes. And I know you don't really know basketball, and 12 points kind of seems like a light right cluster, but it's literally like 4 threes, and that can happen really quickly, right? So I'm still scared shitless right now. Yeah, see, this is when it starts happening. And usually it's my free agents that's turning over, and then my guys are trying to overcompensate for that, right? And these missed free throws and splitting free throws is here's Big Dog missing a 3 with 2 minutes left. So yeah, this is when I start to see like
that's a big bucket.
That's a big bucket, and that's my rookie. That's my rookie center. I'm trying him out. I want to see. It's either we're going with a center. I think we got this. It's either we're going with a center, a big center, or we're gonna go with a big forward. And I like the center. He does pretty well. He averages about 10 and 10 rebounds and points. I'm okay with that. That's a good role player in my book.
Especially for a rookie.
Oh, for sure.
You'll notice with the rookies of Swoops that they're pretty reminiscent of real life rookies, where they'll be a little more inconsistent than those vets, which huge win right there over a top tier team right there. So live on stream, Apollo
Metas.
All-Star is making a name, but the thing
Burying the
about
barriers.
rookies are going to be inconsistent. I used this example the other day, but like Anthony Edwards, his rookie year, there was times where he'd score, 30 points a couple of games in a row. And then there's times where he'd score under 10 points a couple of games in a row. But what you're looking for in your rookies is those bright spots, what you like about them. So Apollo mentioned he's getting 10 and 10. If you imagine, if he is going to have a good development throughout his career, if he's 10 and 10 now, what will he be when he's in his prime is kind of the thought process there.
Okay.
Yeah, man. I honestly have faith in him. He's not named yet, but I wanna blame my girl for that. Right? Her name is Jaylee88. That's what she uses on everything, and he's 2688. So I'm like, you have to name him.
Yep.
She hasn't thought of a name yet, so we'll get to that. But this is a big win though. I like this. This is nice. But and it just shows too, right? In live form, right? You got a 2-star center here versus another 2-star center. This guy, he does really well, right? 18 points normally, right? 11 rebounds normally. Held him to under what he averages, right? He still got his rebounds. I don't expect the epicenter not to get his rebounds, but it just shows like these guys, man. I even have a 1-star. I got Hidu. Hidu's crazy. He's like a high volume scorer. He doesn't really do anything else, but he scores a lot of points, right? But he's a 1-star who can score 30 points on almost every other game, right? That's something people would look for in a cheaper player, right? I got him literally in the draft, in the mint, right? I call the mint the draft because it's basically like drafting players, right?
We refer to the minutes as the draft as well, yeah.
So for the people who don't understand the Swoops terminology, right? I went in, got him probably about, I don't know, about $92 or something like that, plus gas, right? Got those 2 guys and came out with one good guy, came out with a total bust. Happens, right? Everybody can't be great. I'm still gonna run him, which I can do a little alpha right now because I'm still gonna run him on another team.
Ooh,
just not this team. So one of our homies, Clouds, he's in a little coalition with me and Cluster, and he was coming to me about Swoops and about doing stuff. So I was already working on a farm team, so we'll probably end up running this one together. So for the guys, right? And we could talk about this and like kind of segue into this is it's a rust factor added on to the guys, right?
right.
So if I don't play certain guys, right, I want to keep a good record, right? And that keeps me high in the leaderboards. But if I don't play certain guys, they'll end up rusting and end up declining in skills and stats and stuff. So I still got to play those guys. So with that being said, we're going to drop the Hudson Huskies, man. So
top logo. I love it.
Yeah,
I love the branding, keeping it with the Wolves now to the Huskies.
Yeah,
I do want to touch on Rust. Apollo, you mentioned it. So Rust is something that we've just introduced in season 1. And I will say this, all the new features right now for us, with us being in beta and still a lot of testing, nothing's finalized. And we take feedback from the community constantly on what they like, what they don't like, what they want to see. So Rust is like the start to fatigue, which is a concept we've brought up quite a bit. So if you don't play your Swoopster 50 games or more during season 0, they will quote unquote rust, which doesn't mean they'll get worse. It means that they won't necessarily hit their optimal progression curve. And what I mean by that is it's very linear. So it's not all or nothing. If they play 45 games, they'll get 90% of that optimal curve as opposed to 100. So if your guys are kind of riding the bench like a real NBA player, they're not getting in games, you're not going to see them kind of develop as much as they would if they were playing. But something coming that we have in the workshop is something called fatigue, where you're not going to be able to play a player over and over again. Otherwise, they will get tired and you'll start to see them decline in games. Like if you imagine a real life player, if they're playing back-to-backs every week, they're going to get exhausted. You'll see their stats kind of drop off and maybe even lead to injury. But that's one great thing in Swoops is we have no injuries. So the best players are always available to play. They will never be sidelined. I always really complained about that in 2K. You're playing my team, you buy a new player, and he gets hurt first game, and you're like, well, now what? Like,
Yeah,
I just got that guy to play.
you're stuck with a Jonathan Isaac, like the
Yeah.
Orlando Magic fans,
Yeah.
basically, at that point.
Yeah. It's really the thing about Swoops is we have a lot of different levels of basketball fans, from people who have coached to people who play to people who just love the game within our community. And what you'll recognize is there's so many different winning strategies, but also it really is a puzzle. And the aspect of hiding skill scores to not allow you to see the full player makes it so that it's kind of more like real life, where you can't walk up to Jimmy Butler and say, you're this good at this, you're this good at that, you're this good as that. Like, you have to actually watch him play to be able to determine it. And that's the same for Swoops. You have to watch these players play, look at their stats, look at their history, and ultimately kind of make decisions based on that. Uh, I do want to touch on money games and the return on investment of Swoops. You're paying, we have a lot of players that have gone for more than $1,000 at this point. We have players that are selling for over an ETH. And where that's going. So in season 0, we had free to play money games that you could just enter. They'd pop into lobby at random, maybe $1, a couple bucks here or there, play it, win it. We had a couple of teams bring in a couple $1,000s during season 0. And then our Swooper Bowl was 5K in prizes. But this season we're implementing daily and weekly tournaments and challenges. So an SP system that's very similar to an XP system, where you're getting rewarded for playing each day, completing different challenges. But so those daily and weekly tournaments and kind of bigger ones, the bi-seasonal tournaments, or even the Swooper Bowl, those will be where your prize pools will be this season. So that you'll be competing for some money. But ultimately, our goal is to, towards the end of season 1 or even start of season 2, get into real money gaming, where you can go into a $5 lobby, put in $5, put in your lineup, gamble against someone else with $5, see if you can take it home, enter tournaments. And really the Zed Run model is kind of what we're looking at for our model, where you're entering different tiered contests, kind of rate, in Zed Run, you're racing your horses, and Swoops, you're throwing in your lineup and watching them play it out. They could be series, they could be just single elimination, a whole plethora of things. But that's the end goal of Swoops, is to get to that, where we have a fruitful league system where you're getting, allocated and relegated to different leagues depending on your skills. You have a competitive game mode, a sandbox game mode where you can just test lineups, play around, have fun with it, and then money game modes as well. So I don't see Swoops. Currently it's just jump in a lobby, play another team, but there's so much more still yet to be built out for it.
Right. Yeah, like, I mean, I definitely was wondering, okay, so I say I buy several Swoops and I want to have a really good team. So I'm in the open sea and I'm looking for, really good stats that make like a balanced team. I'm just pretending that I actually would know what that is. But say I do that. I spend $1,000. What's the point as far as like getting a return on investment? There's one thing that I can see is growing and developing these players, so that you could turn around and in a real basketball league, like people are always trading players and selling players to different players for millions and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. So I think as a team owner, you're constantly thinking about that as like a little bit of a hustle, right? Like, okay, well, yeah, I'm playing this for fun, and yeah, I want to have the best team, but also like, when do I let go of a team, like a player, so that I can like change up my game, or basketball teams make money,
Right.
and how do they do that? They from playing games, entertainment, but also from their players,
Yeah.
and developing their players and then selling them into a different team. So there's that aspect, and then now you're bringing in these other interesting sort of topics, like how else can I earn money with my team, right? 'Cause you're not exactly there's the tournaments are almost kind of like having a stadium and having people go and watch your tournament or your games, right? So that's kind of cool. And then yeah, the for keeps playing for money, I like that idea too. So
Yeah, there's a couple different ways that we've seen owners kind of attack that return on investment. The first, and probably I won't say best. I don't think there's a best way, but the first way to kind of make money in Swoops is to get in on the mint, the draft. If you can get in there, get lucky, draft a 5-star, that's big ups on your return for that mint. If you kind of, what we did was a buy 5, get 1 free special. So we saw teams kind of go in, get a starting 5, get a 6th man for free. And if you were pulling, 4 5-star players, the league itself knows what the value of those are, so you'll make some money there. The other way that you mentioned is kind of building up players to then sell them. So, putting together a winning lineup, having a player do really well, and then ultimately trading or selling them for some extra dough from what you got. So, like in King Apollo's example, he got smooth at the floor. Smooth got, had a good progression, developed well over the offseason. It's scoring above 20 a game now. So you can assume that his value has gone up in some sense or shape or form from what King Apollo has done. Other ways are by branding players and kind of building out their backstory. We saw in season 0, the Globetroners brought in Doge McDermott. He was a season 0 all-star. So he had an all-star, and getting that recognition boosted his value. You saw them sell him at the end of the season for I think almost 20x what they paid for him. So
Wow.
big ups on returns there from developing players, getting in on the mint. And then another mechanism that we want to incorporate at some point down the line is player renting. So if you're King Apollo and you have 3 players on your squad, but you want to enter a 5 Swoopster tournament, test out those guys in a bigger league, you may be able to rent, the epicenter from the Metaverse for, a little bit of ETH for a couple games, play him, see how he works, and then maybe even buy him off that person afterwards if you like the fit.
Yeah. Nice 10-day contract before you
Right.
get him. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, like, okay, so here I am. I don't know anything about sports, and I've never even considered being into fantasy sports. But like, this is interesting as hell. Like, there's a lot to this, more than meets the eye, and it really kind of makes me think, like, is this something that I could actually technically get into and enjoy? Like, not something that I would initially think, because it's not my vibe. But like, this is really freaking interesting. It's really cool. Makes me kind of curious about it all.
Might have to start a squad. I'd love to also talk a little bit about how our owners are playing and when they're playing. So we are on mobile and desktop. You can play right on the MetaMask app on your phone or through the browser on Chrome. And our game isn't like a sit down and play for an hour and a half like a 2K. It's more or less like I don't want to say like Wordle, but like a game where you're kind of like almost like Candy Crush, where in the down times when you kind of have nothing going on, maybe you would typically check Instagram or go do something on your phone. That's when we find people are like throwing in 5 lobbies. So throw in 5 lineups. You can do that in a couple minutes. And then you go do whatever you're going to do while they run. So maybe you wake up in the morning, you throw a couple lobbies in, go take your shower, go make your breakfast, come back, check those results, throw a couple more in, go to work. Once you get to work, start doing your work, stop for a break, check the results. It's kind of like a very throughout the day, kind of like play here, play there, and not so much I want to sit down for an hour and a half and just kind of stare at it. But we do see owners do that as
Unless
well.
you're X.
Right now, we have about 150 daily active teams that are playing about an hour and a half a day. And my assumption is that's broken up throughout the day. So you're jumping around. Go check out the waiver wire, the OpenSea, see who's listed, hop over to Discord, see who's trading players, jump in the owners chat, talk about branding. And then we also on socials will put out like league leaders, MVP ladders, power rankings. So everything you'd expect from like a real league is there in Swoops right now.
For sure. Yeah, you guys really, they go in depth. I mean, like, you see he's naming off guys that's in the league. They literally will post it. You'll see something like lowest high volume assister on the market right now. This is the lowest priced one right now. Here's the lowest price high volume scorers on the market. You might get a player of the week. We had Super Bowl, we had defensive player of the year. Do we have offensive player of the year?
Yeah, we had the Swoopy Awards were the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Owner of the Year, and GM of the Year. I can say that this season they will be built out even more. So there will be more awards, more different prizes. And you also mentioned kind of the waiver wire. We do 3 different shows a week. On Tuesdays, we do a stat heads show that's kind of covers the stats of the league, who's doing well, what's going on, big performances, etc. Wednesdays, our waiver wire show where we kind of cover the market, talk about recent sales, recent team trades, who's picking up what, and the kind of the value of certain sections. So we can break it up by prospect rating. We can break it up by specific skill score. Sorry, my monitor just shut off. So there's a lot of different, and then on Thursday we do franchise mode, which is kind of when we start highlighting the teams and brands that are being built. So that's like we'll have Knights of Degen on. We'll talk about their team. We'll have one of our owners on. Maybe it's the Rebellion. He'll talk about where he's going with the brand, how his players are performing, his thoughts on the season, etc. So really like an owner interview there, and those shows kind of rotate each week, so we keep them going. And you can expect different segments on each. Next week, we'll actually be kicking off our regular season festivities. So MVP Monday, we'll hop on. League Leaders on Tuesday, Waiver Wire Wednesday, Thursday's franchise mode, and then Friday's kind of like a fun day where we toss in different things.
I mean, okay, so just putting on my social media manager hat here for a bit, that must be a blast. Like, there's so much to do. There's some instances where you're doing social media for a company and you have to like try to figure out some way to make their social media engaging and exciting. But that must be so nice for you. There's always something going on. There's so many cool people like doing their own thing that you just get to like be there and highlight for, and like that must be such a nice gig, especially because you said you like played basketball in college and everything. Like, let's just take a second and just think about how Trent has probably his dream job right now.
Basically.
It's very much so. I actually found out about Swoops my senior semester of college. And at that point, we were at the top of the league. I played NCBBA. I was a second team All-American, the only one under 6 foot. Short man syndrome got me away from D1. But I was just like loving basketball and life. And I actually had a crypto class where I was learning a little bit about crypto, some fintech topics. And one of the Gutter Cat Gang founders was the brother or son, and I think he was somehow related to my professor in some shape or form. And he came and he spoke to our classroom via Zoom, and he's talking about NFTs and like Web3. And I'm like, this stuff sounds awesome. And I can do that. Like I'm marketing. I can go jump over there. So I immediately jump on my laptop. I Google basketball NFT. I just base like very first start. And it was the same exact day that Swoops got funding from Gary Vee. And of course, I knew who Gary Vee was. So I'm like, yo, like, what is this? So I jump over on the Discord. I immediately like start learning what a whitelist spot is, start grinding, trying to get into it. And then Swoops was at New York City for the NYC event. So I was like, I'm going to buy a plane ticket. I'll fly out. I'll go meet the team. And at this point, I'm thinking as an investor, I'm like, I want to learn about this project if I'm going to put money into it, meet these guys. But I just met the team and I fell in love with the idea. And I was like, this is so smart. Like allowing people to own a basketball team that can compete for money. You can build your own brand. You actually own the players. And I was like, damn, I want to be a part of this. So then a month later, I found myself getting the social media coordinator position. And like you mentioned, it's a whole lot of fun. We have so much to talk about, but it's also a little stressful trying to pick, who's the MVP, who's the power ranking squads. It's really running a league in many aspects. So, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of moving parts, but at the end of the day, yeah, this has been like a dream come true for me.
Oh, man.
That's awesome, man.
That's
awesome, man. Such a good story too.
Yeah. Well, we've hit on a lot of things. It's one big key component that I'm really fond of, and that's community. So let's kind of like get into the community. Like you're very active, like I said. Trent's very active in the community along with the rest of the team, right? David's in the chat with us. He talks to us all the time. He asks for feedback. Everybody in the team is very helpful and very in tune with the community. So like, just kind of give me your sense coming on and what have you seen and how this has grown? Because you've seen it grown from, I've been here since, I've seen it grow from 0, the end of 0 to the beginning of 1, which was pretty nice of growth, right? But you've seen it since the beginning,
yeah,
all the way to now. So like, kind of like give me your thoughts on it.
At first, it was very much an idea. Like I said, like you're talking to teams, you're talking to, well, this is before you're even talking to teams. I remember being on a couple of the first spaces. You're just kind of in Web3. You're talking, you're on spaces, you're having fun. And it was like our head of marketing, Jeremy Darlow, was up and he's talking about like building a brand and how you do that and what a logo should look like and how you kind of message things. And it was just a group of people. And then as the weeks went by, we had our first team start popping up where it's like, okay, this team's got a logo already. This is before the game is live as well. So teams started making their logos and building Twitter brands before the game even went live. And I was like, this is insane. And then a couple weeks in, you then look at the spaces down below and it's just all team logos. There's 30 team logos down there and you're like, what the heck? Like, this is no longer people talking to people. This is a league talking to the teams within it. And that growth has just been absolutely phenomenal. Our community, I can't say I've been all over Web3. I haven't, seen every single community, but man, our owners are so freaking nice. It's insane how nice they are to each other. The smack talk is all fun. They love to kind of just talk about players. When new owners come into our Discord, they're sitting there ready to welcome. We have a couple different community brands that have been built, like Swoops Illustrated. He's created an entire website and database just covering Swoops topics. And he's not paid at all. He's not a team member. He just loves the game, runs a franchise as well, the Globetrotters. So shout out if Swoops Illustrated, if you're listening, shout out. We got like MJ Gaming, who's come in and is building a marketplace tool for us. Guys like King Apollo who come in, they start streaming the game. King Apollo's team has fans, and that's something that is really mind-blowing that this early we have teams who have, are putting out merch, have fans, have followers, their player profiles have followers. I think, there's quite a few names that I could throw out, and even King, who hasn't been here the whole time, he'll know exactly who I'm talking about when I say Tronovan Mitchell, when I talk about the Star Gods, when I talk about, Rex and the 416ers, Posty McBuckets.
Rex
all
is my
these guys
sensei.
have become personified within the league, and that was really the goal. And it's coming into fruition, and it's just amazing to see community build around something that they know is just getting started.
Yeah, even to the point where we have community tournaments already, right? You guys had a couple in the beginning of the season. I mean, the season 0. I'm sorry, beginning of the season. In season 0, we had one that just happened. I got put out first round. Shout out the Pirates. They kicked my butt. They were mad because I got smooth and I got them right. So they were a little upset. So I understand. I respect the Pirates. Shooter, McGoggles, I understand. So, it's cool to see that. I also, little plug here, I also have a tournament coming up myself. And this tournament is for anybody. So if you aren't in Swoops yet, right, and you're looking to get in, grab one guy, and you might have a chance to grab you a few other guys. Like we said, the floor price is ranging right now. You could get some of these guys for pretty cheap. Don't know how long that's going to last because we're growing every day. So those guys could get swept up any day. But
very true.
With that being said, right, you could get in here, one Swoopster. That's all you need. If you're one guy, you choose that one guy you feel like you believe in. And this is for the guys with 50 guys or the guys with 2 guys, right? Choose that one guy you believe in. 4 free agents. You're going in there, $200, real easy, right? And it's more things like this to come. Like you said, they have tournaments within the game that are coming real soon. That's going to be amazing. I'm super excited for those. You also have KOD who's out here doing tournaments like the one that they just doing now. So it's really involved, even to the point where like we had, I don't want to go too deep into it, but we had a situation where a wallet got compromised and the community literally, I mean, within 30 minutes.
Yeah, King. I'd love to talk a little bit about that. That's a great example.
If we could, because we normally cover, so we cover cybersecurity normally when we do our main flow of things, right? We cover a cybersecurity section in the end to kind of help our viewers because a lot of people are just getting into the Web3 space, or they're unfamiliar with the technologies and dangers that come with it, right? So we'd love to talk about that because we actually covered that. I just didn't know if they want to talk about it. So I just kind of for the for that. But if you want to go into it, we could definitely go into it.
Let me jump into that because I think it's a great example of just the Swoops community. So at Swoops, we have our Twitter and the Discord for primary social channels right now, as well as Twitch. But on Twitter, we have a group chat that is called the Swoops Owners Association. It's where we bring in kind of the owners. Right now, it's capped at 75. We're actually moving that chat very shortly to somewhere where we can have more owners involved. But that's kind of where we take in the primary feedback, get teams together to meet each other, and really just kind of, that's our co-founder David Goldberg is in there all the time talking to teams, bouncing ideas off of them. We like to build with the teams that are building with us. But the other day, I was actually away when this happened. I was not kind of active. I was out and about, and I just got spam with pings like message, and I'm like, oh, what's going on in the owners chat? I jump in there, and one of our owners had a wallet of 17 swoopsters completely drained and then thrown up on Blur for really cheap. And I remember seeing this and I was like, man, that's terrible. Obviously, like, you hate to see that happen. But then as I scroll through the replies, there's like 10 different owners that are like, I will buy them for you. Like, just let me know. So we actually had another owner scoop up all 17 of those swoopsters and return them to the rightful owner, which was just amazing to see. I don't think I've seen that in another community where it was, several owners were ready to buy. There was a couple of people trying to buy right away. Some of the items got flagged on OpenSea, so they had to wait a minute. But we ended up actually getting that full roster back to him. And it was unfortunate to have that happen. And scams are just everywhere in Web3 right now, which is not very ideal, not the best. But when you have a community at your back, it's a whole lot different game. So I think it's just one example of how amazing our community can be and how helpful they are as well. But like the Swoops owners love each other, and it's insane. I see that I saw earlier Wilder and the Rebellion in here, and they're two people that I don't think had ever met before being Swoops owners and are now really good friends. And that kind of idea of building friendships and creating almost like partnerships with other teams where you can bounce ideas, bounce players off each other, say, hey, what do you think of this guy? I'm thinking about picking him up. That's reminiscent of the real world where I'm sure NBA GMs are calling each other up to chat about guys and chat about deals all the time. 100%. But in Swoops, we don't just have 32, we have, hundreds. So there's so much opportunity to meet people that are like-minded, enjoy basketball, and want to keep building with each other.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely. And I was actually live and like there when that whole situation went down. First, it rocked me because I knew what he had on one of two of the lineups. Yes. And it's like a one-of-one player, which was really cool. In the Mint, they dropped basically two one-of-one players that were completely different from the other swoopsters, based loosely off of some of the guys coming up into the NBA draft. And one of those was basically like could have been in it. So when I first seen it and I seen the team, my heart dropped. And it wasn't even my team, right? My heart dropped, and but the guys were so quick and they were like, all right, what's going on? And we all immediately went and flagged the account. And that's how all of the NFTs got flagged. And then it was
none of our team members were, this was like a Saturday night or afternoon. None of our team members were active. So it was completely community driven, that entire kind of event and process. And it worked itself. I mean, by worked itself out, I mean, one of our community members kind of stepped up, but we were not a part of solving that until later in the afternoon, making sure everything was all right. But it was all community.
Yeah. And I mean, even to the point where just us all talking and like alerting everybody of what's going on, because they were all placed at floor value. If any of those guys were 4 stars or 5 stars, those are immediate snipes for anybody, right? But with all of us being so closely knit and knowing what's going on, we are all looking at it and we're like, okay, no, don't buy those.
Yeah.
Right? Those
there was a 4-star in there at 0.02, which would have been the all-time lowest 4-star sale by a lot. Yeah. And so to see it, I think they were up for about 15 minutes, and to just collectively have, hundreds of owners all say, I'm not going to buy that guy because that's not right, was just really fascinating to me, because there's definitely money to be made there immediately.
Yeah,
for sure. 100%.
So that's crazy to think about. And so I guess the person who had their wallet compromised learned a serious lesson, right? But the
Yeah.
real question I have is like what I wonder what happened that compromised their wallet. Like what kind of scam can we look out for to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again, right? Was it like a social engineering hack where he just they asked him to like put in his seed phrase, or did he connect his wallet to a malicious site, or like I wonder what happened.
Yeah, we
But
still I don't have an exact explanation. I don't think the person even knew kind of what happened. I'm guessing he just went to a bad link somewhere along the line, going through Web3, jumping through Discord, something like that, and just the wallet could have even been compromised, weeks before, and they just finally drained it.
Yeah.
so this Swoops is built on like the NFTs are on Polygon or on Ethereum.
The NFTs are on Ethereum, and we're actually talking about right now how our gaming will be. We don't know if we want to have our gaming on Ethereum due to the high gas rates. So we
Yeah.
might swap over to something like Polygon for the actual in-game kind of money distribution and kind of wagers. But I believe that if the players will always live on Ethereum, so I
So
don't
with
think we have
that
any
though,
plans
then
to move.
that gives you an opportunity. I think you can store Ethereum NFTs on a ledger, and that would definitely be a way that we can make sure that we don't lose our players. That extra layer of protection can be really handy. So I
Yeah.
guess the lesson of the day is if you got a sick Swoops lineup, put it on the ledger.
Protect it.
Use your ledger.
Protect it.
And
That's your
yeah, like
franchise.
yeah, for sure. And if you go back, I think I want to say it's episode 1 or 2. We covered a similar situation that happened. And it's easy as just going into your MetaMask and checking to see what your wallet is still connected to. Sometimes we connect to stuff we don't really realize what it is. We leave the site immediately. We don't disconnect. Just go through and disconnect it. It really helps. I go through all the time. I try to go like once a week, right? I go and look at a lot of sites just because of the nature of my profession. And I have to make sure that I'm not connected to certain things, because even if you're connected to things like, say you're like, oh, well, that's a credible site. Well, credible sites get compromised as well. So if you're not doing anything on the site, well, then just disconnect it, right? If you're done, you're done with the project. You're not going to make anything anytime soon or log in. Just disconnect your stuff, right?
Yeah, and revoke permissions, revoke your because you sign all these contracts saying that different sort of uh accounts have the ability to do things on your wallet. And sometimes you'll sign a contract that literally says like it can take up to like 100 million Ethereum or something like that,
Yeah,
and not realize. Um, and so you can go to a site and spend a little bit of gas, and it'll revoke all of your signed contracts that you've ever signed, essentially, and that'll definitely help keep you safe from wallet draining as well.
for sure, man. For sure. Yeah, man, it was a crazy story, but big W's to the community. Moved fast, acted fast, moved as a unit and a whole, and it's crazy to see that with like so many different personalities and different organizations and stuff. Just to see it, like normally this would be an area of like maybe like stronger competition as far as like I say in the fact of stronger feelings towards each other, right? Like you said, it's friendly competition here, right? And these guys stick together. So it's just lovely to see, because it's something you don't necessarily see in any franchise history in sports
Right.
ever. Like ever. I've seen a
Even
million leagues, nothing. There's
Even
nothing
in
like
the
it.
Super Bowl where we had, thousands of dollars on the line, the team that lost would just say like, "Hey, GG, like you kind of outplayed us. Like, way to go." And that was something that, I going into Swoops and starting to build this community out, I didn't expect it to be like this. I thought we'd have kind of more teams frustrated, more teams kind of like arguing, more teams in the chat. You have 75 personalities in there right now that
Yeah.
are all playing games. People are doing different things. People are playing different players, buying different players, making different deals. And we really haven't had any moments where it's like owners fighting with each other and are yelling at each other. And we have a couple set of owners that I want to shout out, like AI North, the Globetrotters, the
Wow, man.
Rebellion, like these guys that are always active. They've been very helpful in the community to kind of help me kind of be a part of those conversations where they'll bring it to my attention, like, hey, I think this team's upset about XYZ with this other team. And then we're able to be like, hey guys, like what's going on? And we'll chat through it. And then normally it just kind of resolves itself, where it was like, I was just frustrated. I was losing some games, but I'm happy to like not keep going, or like, let's take this out of the chat, which has been, it's something to say that I haven't seen that before, where, you have self-moderating owners that want to keep their image within the league just as much as they want to keep their team rolling.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're not going to go and throw a fit if you're losing games, because then that's a bad look for your franchise. So that the brand that you're building is also representative of yourself. So, carry yourself with honor and a good attitude, and people will respect your brand and love it and help it grow as well.
Interesting. Yeah.
Don't cry like LeBron.
Right.
This isn't a soccer league. It's a basketball league.
Oh, no, LeBron's in basketball.
No, I know. I'm just thinking of all the whinging soccer players.
All right. So, where are we at time? 1:14. We're doing pretty well on time. Is there anything that you feel like we didn't ask that maybe you kind of want to say about Swoops that kind of like separates you guys from the rest of the projects? I mean, even sports, like we've talked about, sports projects it's very minimal, right? We don't have a plethora of sports projects in the space. Like, is there anything you want to say that kind of like separates you guys, or like even unifies you guys to like mesh within the space, right? Is there anything we didn't touch on that you kind of want to say?
Yeah, I'll jump into and say that our biggest differentiator, aside from actually the branding and building of a team, is definitely the simulator itself. What we did the other day, we have a free to play game. So if you're listening and you don't own any Swoopsters, we have a daily GM game that uses NBA IP. So you can actually use our simulator with real life players. We put out a challenge lineup every day. So 5 players. Those are assigned a dollar amountage, so 1 through 5. So your LeBrons are $5, whereas your role players, not so good, are $1. So if the lineup adds up to 11, the challenge lineup, that's what you'll have to kind of wager in with your players. So player pool of 35, pick your players, put it together a lineup, and then at 8:30 p.m. East, we'll send you those results with a box score. So you can see how our simulator works with real life players and start to make assumptions on that. We actually did a really cool thing the other day where we simulated the NBA Finals series 1,000 times. So we did Heat versus Nuggets 1,000 times, got the results. And, I think our simulator is so advanced that sometimes it blows my mind. And I looked at those results, Bam Adebayo, typically, like an 18 to 20 point per game score. Our simulator in those 1,000 games had him scoring 24 a game. And I was like, no way Bam scoring 24 a game. But then in game 1 of the finals, he drops 26 on the Nuggets. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. And then, another example, Caleb Martin in that 1,000 game sim, he absolutely torched the Celtics. And I was like, he's going to keep rolling through the finals. Our simulator had him only averaging 11 points per game through those 1,000 games. And I was like, that's way too low. But then game 1 of the finals, he only scores 7. And I'm like, wait a minute. So the simulator's ability to kind of, it depicts players on a one-of-one basis. So it knows all 10 players on the court. It's able to judge chemistry, fit, lineups, rotations, different defenses that the team might be able to go into. So that simulator itself, it's under a year old, which for a basketball sim is quite young. And we're still building it out, adding things like overtime, adding things like timeouts, etc. So you're really going to get an entire game feel from it. But for those of you listening that are kind of interested in being like, what is this guy talking about? Simulator basketball. I'd recommend just trying that gm.playswoops.com game out. It's free to play. And if you're in the top winner of the month, you can earn some Swoopsters for free. But if you're looking to kind of jump into the full version game, I highly recommend just follow King Apollo's footsteps. Scoop up one player off the floor, get a guy. It doesn't really even matter which guy. Just find one you kind of like the look of. Maybe you like their top 3. You're a fan of, defenders. Pick up a perimeter defending rookie. Play him a couple times. test the game out, get a feel for it. And then if you want to continue playing, build out your squad and make a plan. What we're seeing in season 1 after the rookie mint is a lot of franchises that are new are finding themselves with 5 or 6 rookies. And if you know basketball, you know that that's not, really a winning formula. You're not going to find success with all these young guys that haven't kind of reached their development. So if you want to get in now, I'd recommend, start off, scoop up a floor rookie, get a cheap guy that you can kind of build around and plan for the future. Pair him with a vet or two. Find a guy that's a little bit more in their prime, has things going for him, good stats, something like that. And just start slowly building up this lineup to prepare for bigger things like the Swooper Bowl or money games, or even just kind of playing games to have fun with it. It's not all about making money, but right now, for a $50 gamble on a rookie in 3 seasons, that rookie could be, one of the best players in the league. You really don't know, just like in the NBA. So, there's a sense of gambling when you're buying a player, but also if you kind of know basketball and you can look at what he's doing and put together a team, there's plenty of opportunities not only to make money, but to make friends, build a franchise, have something you're proud of, and also, compete in a league that is just barely getting started.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, dang.
It's a lot of good stuff, man.
Kind of got me itching, especially because I'm seeing a couple of these swoops that are like pretty low, like they're definitely below mint price. And I'm like,
The good thing is you got a friend who has a few that he just can't use so much. So, we'll get you started up, man.
Secret.
Yeah, we'll get you started up, man. No worries. For sure, man. Like Trent said too, and I'm just giving you guys from like my experience coming in because it's kind of fresh, right? Treat it like it's an org. Like if you guys know basketball, you know how dynasties are built, right? It's a piece at a time. It's rare occasions where you get a LeBron, Bosh, Wade kind of situation where you pit 3 guys together and it works out and they bring home championships, right? Those are rare occasions. You don't see it happen. And in this last 10 years, we've seen a bunch of big threes get put together. We just seen Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and all 3 superstars all on one team in Brooklyn and couldn't get it done, right? And couldn't get the job done. So take it one step at a time. Find your guys. It's a lot of diamonds in the rough. Don't rush and buy stuff. I like literally Rex yelling at me. I can hear Rex yelling at me now about just buying players just to buy players.
Well, that and too, King, I'd love to mention, you get your first couple of guys. Maybe they're not working out perfectly for you, but every swoopster kind of has a fit. And you can trade. Trades happen every day in Swoops where you just talk to a different owner. Maybe you play a team a couple times and you're like, damn, I'm really liking Smooth. Let me see if King Apollo is willing to move him. I got this guy that I think might fit for his team. And, that I'd highly recommend jumping in our Discord and just kind of chatting around with owners because they'll give you the alpha. They'll tell you kind of where to look. We have a blog that kind of covers each aspect of the game. A new website coming that'll give you a little bit more details into how to play. But the more you kind of dive into Swoops, we're finding that the more you like it. So if you're kind of interested now, take a couple days, couple weeks, watch what's going on, stay up to date with it, follow the Twitter. We post a lot of different updates there. And, you can start to really get a sense for what's going on and how this is shaping up. We're still very much a beta. So the game you see today will not be the same in a year from now. The UI UX and the locker room aspect of it where we want to make a customizable locker room where every single different locker room you go into is unique and it's a stop and it has this history to it where they have trophies and banners and different player history. So if you think about, the Star Gods who won our Super Bowl championship, they're going to have a trophy case with a Super Bowl championship in there. They're going to have, different customizable options where their locker room looks different than King Apollo's, where his has got the blues in it, where they got the greens in it. And, it's going to be a full experience. If you think about like a 2K franchise mode, we want to take that and we want to mix that with a DraftKings where you're making money playing daily games. That's kind of what we're looking for, is the best of both worlds in those kind of games.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
I love it. Oh, it's all good. All right. But yeah, man, I'm super excited for what's to come. I'm glad I honestly, stumbled upon a community like on OpenSea. I was looking for a copper drop. I was looking for a copper drop for the segment, and I came across it, and I was like, "This looks interesting." So I went, and I'm glad I stumbled upon it, man. Because honestly, like, I'm not gonna say in what order, but definitely top 2 communities that I've been in since I've been, and then I've been in quite a few communities. I bounced around a bunch, so
Appreciate that.
definitely up there with top, like, for sure.
The user content has been amazing too. Just teams highlighting their own players, talking about their brands. It's been amazing to see. We have a couple different logo makers in the community that will make a team a logo, Prospect, Hold'em, and the Bucket Hounds, 2 amazing graphic designers that have kind of stepped in. And you know, it's not just if you take your 2K team, you could build the best team in 2K this year, but when the new game comes out, you're shit out of luck. You're restarting.
Yeah.
But with us, you know, you're building for the future. You can plan months ahead. You can say, I got a couple rookies I really like. Let's see them in a couple months. Let's see this guy in a couple months. Let's see how we kind of fare. And the other great thing that I like to say is if you could go out and Swoops right now, look at the OpenSea, buy the best 5 players, spend the most money, but it won't always lead to the most success. That's that chemistry aspect. So in a way, Swoops can be pay to win. You know, the better players do sell for more, but it's not like a full pay to win model where if you just buy the best players, they're going to be the best. And then the other aspect is those really great players will not be there forever. So the best team today will not be the best team in 5 years, just like the NBA. Their players will age out, they'll get older, new players will come in, they'll get better. And it creates a really vibrant league system where good teams become great teams go back to being, you know, good teams and then drop to bad teams. Even you can have the full range for any franchise depending on what their GM's doing and the strings they're pulling. It's kind of really all up to you.
Yeah. Who's the better team owner in a sense, right? Like,
It's about longevity.
mm,
It's definitely more longevity than just thinking about the now. You get caught in the now, you're gonna be hurt in like 2 seasons down the line.
interesting. Yeah, man. Well, sheesh, there we go. We did it. I mean,
Found someone to rate.
honestly, I didn't have too big of expectations for this because I was like, I just don't like sports. I'm probably just gonna be here and like vibing. But like, actually, I really enjoyed this whole podcast and learning more about Swoops. There's a lot to it that more than meets the eye, and I think it's a sleeper. I think it's a huge sleeper, and it's got so much potential. Um, definitely on my radar now. That's for sure.
Yes, sir. I'd love
Let's
to hear
go.
that, man. I knew Trent's the guy to bring on, man. I'm telling you, man. I talk to him all the time. He knows the project in and out, man. And it's great to have you on, man. I'm glad you came
Appreciate
on.
it. I really appreciate it.
Definitely don't want it to be the last time as well. So we definitely looking forward to new updates, and when more stuff comes out and you guys like add some more stuff, we definitely love to have you back on and
Yeah,
chat it
happy
back up
to.
and stuff like that.
I Swoops has become my life these last few months. I
Yeah.
am, you know, 60 hours a week on here, making sure everything's running, and it's been an absolute blast. And it's just the beginning, and it's hard to kind of tell people it's the beginning and convince people, you know, spend $1,000 here to start a team. But when you think about how big it could get and you know where we are going, there's so much to be still yet to be discovered and yet to kind of be done that
Yeah.
man, for our first season and our beta, we're ecstatic with where we're at right now. We have you know 150 active teams every single day that are playing and enjoying the game and discussing it. And soon that'll be a couple thousand, and eventually, you know, we'll be in the masses. And I could see Swoops absolutely growing to high heights. That's why I'm here. That's why you know, I'm dedicating a lot of my time and a lot of my energy to this. And I believe in Swoops. And if you're thinking about checking it out and you have a little bit more questions, shoot me a DM at Trent LeBounty on Twitter. Let's chat about Swoops. Let's talk about it. You got some suggestions. You got some ideas. You're not so sure about jumping in. You want to, you know, you got a little bit of cold feet. Just come chat with me. I'll tell you all about it. I was a fan first, employee second, and I still kind of feel that way where it's, man, let's build out a basketball league. This hasn't been done before in this sense.
Awesome.
Yeah. And thanks for dropping down your contact info. That's definitely the final thing. Make sure you guys reach out to Trent for sure. He's a wealth of information and a great way to get started in the community. So
I'm gonna drop the
Um,
link to his Twitter for you guys, so you guys can have it. If you follow me, it's on my recent posts or clusters posts as well. But here is Trent's page for you guys. We are gonna raid out to Drew the Giant. Drew the Giant's a
sir.
good homie of ours in the Web3 space. Here's Trent's Twitter if you guys want to reach out. That's all platforms right there. Feel free to reach out to Trent. He'll get you squared away with anything, with information you need to know. And like once
I got a
again,
deal for him, Apollo. If you guys reach out in the next 2 hours, let's say, I'll hook you up with a free player. So if you reach out to me on Twitter in the next 2
Sheesh.
hours, I'll hook you up.
hey, listen, I dropped the
I'm
link in there,
reaching out.
man. I dropped the link in there. You
I am
guys
gonna
heard the
ask you
man.
though. I am gonna ask you if you do want to collect that free player, you gotta start a Twitter franchise. So you gotta start a brand. You gotta get yourself a logo, a team name. I want to hook that player up with a starting franchise. So hit me up with a DM. Let's chat. I can hook you up with a player, but I am gonna ask you for a couple things as well.
All right. Well, all right, guys.
All
We'll
right.
see you guys later. And that one
Catch you
rated
guys later.
out. Let me make sure
Yeah.
mine's rated out. Yours did. That one did.
Mine's
Okay.
rated out. Yeah.